wants to be a millionaire.
Munchin Gladbach, and welcome to Long Live Hooky Street, the podcast where we rewatch and discuss every episode of Britain's most beloved TV comedy, Only Fools and Horses. I'm Heather, and I'm joined from Denver, Colorado by my co-host and sister Jenny. Say hello, dude.
Please.
Today we are discussing Series 5, Episode 1, From Prussia with Love. So go and get a glass of water, and let's get started.
This episode aired on the BBC at 8:35 p.m. on Sunday, August 31st, 1986. Viewing figures for this series opener landed at just 12.1 million, which was lower than any other episode in Series 4. Perhaps it was the new day of the week and the new time slot. I think maybe being the last weekend of the summer holidays does not help. So the UK number one song at this time was I Want to Wake Up With You by Boris Gardner. And top of the UK box office was the Woody Allen movie Hannah and Her Sisters, starring Michael Caine and Mia Farrow. A few interesting little facts here. The script for this episode was originally intended for Series 4 and included Grandad, before being rewritten to include Uncle Albert. This was the episode that was bumped out of Series 4 when Happy Returns and Strained Relations came along to explain Grandad's exit. So this episode marks the second appearance of Marlene and a continuation of the infertility storyline, first hinted at in Sleeping Dog's Lie, and the second appearance of Duke. So this episode would be the final appearance of Nuala Conwell as Nag's Head barmaid Maureen, Heather's favourite barmaid.
No!
It sounds like ITV forced her to choose between the rival channels, since she was also starring in The Bill over on the ITV, and they said you can't be on both channels, so she had to leave. Why can't you be on both channels? I want to know.
Yeah,
Maureen, come back, Maureen.
No.
Here we see the first ever appearance of Boycie and Marlene's lounge, which doesn't reappear until all the way at the very end of the show in Sleepless and Backup. So other times we see Boycie's house, we see their hallway in Dates and the outside of the house again in Sky's the Limit, and presumably we see a lot of the lounge in the green grass, but I haven't actually seen that. And finally, we have the episode title Origin. Obviously, we are seeing another James Bond-inspired title here to go alongside Diamonds Are for Heather and License to Drill. Prussia, which dissolved in 1947, almost during the war, was a historical region and kingdom of Eastern Europe. Parts of what is now Germany fell within the borders of Prussia. And as usual, I'll have more trivia to scatter throughout the episode, but shall we move on to the episode rankings, dude?
Yes, let's do that. So, we are already on Series 5, and our regular listeners will know by now. Each week we reveal and compare our rankings for the episode, and prior to recording the entire podcast, we independently ranked all 64 episodes. So if you didn't know all that and are not yet one of our regular punters, we would love for you to subscribe to the podcast. We release a new episode every Saturday, and we've been informed by our streaming platforms that most of our listeners are not actually subscribed. The support really helps us to be able to continue putting in the time that we have been to make these episodes for you. So please do subscribe if you are not subscribed. So would you like to guess my rankings, or shall I guess yours, dude?
I'm going to guess yours first then. Okay, so I'm going to guess that yours is 36.
That's right.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, that's actually right. That's amazing, dude. That is what my ranking is.
That is crazy.
How did you come to that number? That's so crazy.
Well, to be honest, it's kind of like the average of the two numbers they have right in front of me here. Mine is 34 and IMDb is 37.
Oh my god, that's crazy. Yes. Okay, so yours is 34, so I didn't to guess yours, but that's crazy. You guessed exactly right. Out of 64, that's pretty impressive.
Because I kept looking up and I was like, I don't think it's the 20s for Heather. And then I was like, but I don't think it's the 40s. So I just went bang in the middle because it's the same for me.
Wow.
That's the thing. It's like this episode, even though it is 37 on IMDb, I've seen a lot of people very critical of this episode. And I know why, because obviously he's selling a baby. But
yeah.
You have to try to look at it slightly differently to that. He's not just selling the baby. He's trying to facilitate something where everybody wins. But yes, obviously what he does is terrible if you really think about it. But he isn't doing it with the pure motivation of money.
No.
He hears Anna's background and he cares, and he does care about Boycie and Marlene. And yes, he's trying to make money, but that's more just to get money out of Boycie. I don't know.
I agree with you. I don't think it's quite as like, it's not like Tracy selling a baby to the croppers in Coronation Street for you Corrie fans back then.
Yeah.
It's not like all about the money and not caring all about the baby. There's a little bit of both in there.
Yeah.
And yes, of course, as you say, what he does isn't right. But Anna did tell Del before anything else. It's not like Del talked her into it, that she wanted to give her baby up. And yeah, Del was thinking of his friend when he was talking about it. Of course, he went to Del about it and put money into the equation. But I do think, I think that when he initially thought about it, even though he does pull I'm going to make a load of money out of this face, I do think there was a genuine concern for both. And I think you can see that at the end as well. Because even before they find out what they find out, spoiler alert, at the end of the episode, he does already try to call the deal off just because he can see how upset Anna is.
Yes, exactly. And you can see that he's not comfortable when she says she's going to keep the baby, that he's not comfortable. So, like, obviously we'll get to that in the episode breakdown. But yeah, he's not sailing through this without any remorse. And
no.
Yes, again, like you can keep saying it. If you just look at it as, yes, he sells a baby, it's a terrible thing to do. But no, he doesn't actually finish the deal. And he does explain that he's only charging to get money back from Boise that he feels is owed.
Yeah.
So if that is true, then he's not really selling the baby. But yeah, I mean, I can see why some people think it's ethically wrong, and of course, but some people put it up there with worse than Royal Flush. What he does, and I don't know.
Oh, that is bad.
But that's just what people think, because like I think we've discussed this before in Wanted and stuff. There's quite a lot of things Del does that I think would technically be worse than what he does in Royal Flush. What he does in Royal Flush isn't actually like as bad. Yeah, if like in real life, if this happened, it's not as bad as selling a baby. It's
not the actions in a Royal Flush. It's the words and the demeanor of Del in a Royal Flush that makes everyone hate it. It's not done with any jest. It's done with like menace almost. And that's why I think it's the way David Jason played Del in that episode is the problem. I don't think it's the actions necessarily of Del that are any more bad than any other things that he does in other episodes.
Right, yeah. So, but anyway, we're talking about From Prussia with Love, not Royal Flush. We always end up talking about a Royal Flush.
Because everyone, as you said, everybody compares like what they consider to be bad Del to a Royal Flush Del, because that's considered to be the worst version of Del in any episode. So you always end up bringing it up when you're talking about bad things that Del's done. And is this worse than a Royal Flush?
Yeah. I don't think so, because I do think we'll just talk about it as we go along, but some of the really redeeming things here about Del are he is going to just let Anna, a stranger, sleep in his flat because she's got nowhere else to go. They look after her. They're going to rush her to the hospital when she goes into labor. Like, none of these things are bad things at all. They're very nice things that Del does. And as if he never would have seen Anna and the baby out on the street, and he provided a safe place for her to be with the baby after the birth. I mean, these are all really good things that he does. So yes. But anyway, let's just do the episode breakdown and we can talk about all of them.
Okay, let's do it. So we begin this episode in the Nag's Head, and Del is trying to sell Mike a mobile phone, not a baby, don't worry. And Maureen is still here, I put happily. But actually, I didn't realize this was her last episode until you said it in the intro. So I'm really sad now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And Mike points out a foreign bird who doesn't speak any English, who's been sitting in the pub bursting into tears all night. So this is Anna, we find out later. So Maureen has tried to talk to her, but has failed to get any sense out of her. So I would have actually liked to have seen how Maureen tried to talk to her, because we find out she does actually speak English. So God knows how thick Maureen's accent must be for her to not realise that she can speak English. But anyway, Rodney gets excited.
Maybe she's Swedish.
Which is laughed off by Del and Mike. I actually don't understand what's so great about being Swedish. I'm guessing it's a kink of Rodney's. I'm not sure.
I think Swedish women are always considered to be like, beautiful, blonde, tall, like exotic. Yeah,
right.
Like it's just a.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It's like a fantasy thing for him, isn't it?
Yeah. Rodney's obviously got a lot of kinks about various different things. So. And Mike points out.
Hey, Del, you speak a bit of French, don't you?
Well, potage bonne femme.
I don't actually know what potage bonne femme means. I'm sure you do.
Well, I put that in my notes, So it says online, potage bonne femme means potato and leek soup.
That is pretty funny.
I think that's the correct translation. That's what I put into Google. Sounds right.
All right, great. So Del offers to go and try and speak to the girl, but not before getting free drinks in exchange.
Yeah.
So a typical Delism. And whenever he can get something for free or make money, he does it. So Rodney and Del go over to the girl, and Del opens with
Au revoir.
So I think this is the first time we actually see Del use au revoir as a greeting, right?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe not.
He actually does manage to ask her if she speaks French, which she does, but Del has no idea what she's saying when she starts speaking to him. Can I just say, side note, this happens to me all the time in Hong Kong because I speak a little bit of Cantonese.
Yes.
I'm going to impress our listeners now. So I know how to say, so that means I speak a little bit of Cantonese, but Cantonese is a difficult language to learn. But because I say that so well, because that's one of the only things I know how to say, people start talking at me in Cantonese and I'm like, oh shit, I just told you that I don't speak any, but I told you in such a way that it makes you sound like I do. So yeah, I can understand what happened here to Del, but it's very funny, the reaction of Rodney, especially when he sort of looks at him in amazement. Yeah, that's a great little bit there. But obviously, so Del has no idea what she's saying, and then he says,
No, she don't speak French either, mate.
So we find out that the girl is German, which prompts Albert to come over and try his hand in communicating, leading to a fantastic line. I think this is one of Albert's most famous lines.
What is your name?
I absolutely love that. And again, Buster Merrifield's facial expressions when he does it as well, with the big wide open eyes and everything. So suddenly the girl is able to speak English. I put suddenly because she's in England in a pub and she must have been able to understand some of the English around her. I know they've got thick sort of London accents, but she must have been able to understand that people are speaking English around her all night.
Yeah.
So it's a bit weird that she holds on to it until this point to say, does anybody speak English? Like, and Del's reaction is understandable.
That plus the fact like where she is as well. She's in England.
That's what I mean. She's in England. Yeah. That's what I said. Like, she's clearly in a pub. She lives in England. Like, she knows where she is. So it's a bit weird. I guess they have to hold on to it till this point so we can have the jokes about the French and the German.
Yeah.
But yeah, from a logical point of view, she absolutely would have spoken English before this point.
Right.
In fact, that would have been the first language that she'd have tried because she's in England, surely. So now we get the beginning of a great running gag throughout the episode. There's a couple of little, well, not throughout the episode, but at least in the next couple of scenes, where Del says something in English and then Anna says, please, to Rodney, which Jenny said in the intro, which was great, where Rodney says the same thing in simple English. So we find out that the girl, and I'm just going to call her Anna from now on because that is her name, has been in England for 1 year, and she is a language student who has been chucked out of her accommodation and is now looking for her hotel. Yes. So Rodney is very pleased with this information.
I will make sure you get to your hotel. I will make sure you get safely to your room. I think I can handle this one on my own now, Del, don't you?
Yeah, I bet you can. Yeah, go. Blimey.
Presumably here, Rodney was planning to take advantage of this poor girl. Do you agree with this,
I don't think it's in a sinister way. I think he's just excited.
But he was thinking like, oh, I might be able to get in bed with this
Maybe,
girl, right?
but
This is kind of what this says to me.
I mean, he's in his 20s and she's being friendly and nice with him. Does it, I don't know.
I don't know though. I thought that wasn't very in character for Rodney because he can see that she like needs help and she's a bit worried and everything. I don't know. I feel like he wouldn't have gone down that road, but that line is very suggestive the way he says it.
But like he says it, and yes, I think from Del's point of view, we can see that he's excited about the fact that he can escort her back to her room. But at the same time, we know that Rodney is not the type to force himself on anyone, and he's actually very nervous. So I don't think it comes across as sinister. I think he was just going to see how it went. Like,
I mean, the second that Del and Albert leaves, he's perfectly nice to her and a total gentleman. He doesn't suggest anything. So yeah, maybe it was just said
for
to
show, maybe
sort of look bit tough to look tough in front of Del. Del and Albert head out of the pub, and Del has one last go at selling the phone to Mike. I feel like Del is always selling phones to Mike. This is like, he must do it at least 3 times. The only other time I can think of right now, obviously, is
Little Problems. Doesn't he try and sell it in T for 3? I know that's a home solarium. And then he says he's going to...
there is.
The phone is free with the
car phone.
Yeah. We ain't got a car phone. Yeah. Yes, T for 3. And then I think, isn't there in Chance of a Lunchtime probably? Because doesn't he have the phone then as well?
No, he has the musical doorbells in Chance of a Lunchtime. But either way, he's always trying to sell Mike something. But I think, at least 3 occasions. So for Del, it's watches and phones, I think, are his 2 biggest sellers from the episodes we've seen.
Which is the episode where he's playing
so
on the
far.
phone and it's changing the channels of TV behind them. Is that Little Problems or is that Chance of Lunchtime?
That is Chance of Lunchtime, I
so-
think. But that's a good trivia question for our audience.
I feel like it's not Little
that's a good
Problems. I feel like
point.
it's later than Little Problems. But he's when they're all watching the race in the background.
I know it's Trigger and Boise in the background watching it, or not Trigger, maybe Boise's definitely watching it. I don't know. We'll have to look that up, or maybe our listeners can tell us which episodes is Del trying to sell mobile phones to Mike.
Yeah.
Discuss in the comments.
And how many times does Mike buy it?
Yes, no, none. He doesn't buy any, but he does buy the electric paint stripper, thinking it's a hairdryer. So here, Rodney has a very polite conversation with Anna, where he finds out that she doesn't actually have a place to stay. And realizing that she is vulnerable, he invites her back to stay at the flat. So this, I said, far more in character than the line he said earlier, but we've already discussed that. And when Anna stands up, we see she is heavily pregnant, to the amusement of Mike and Maureen. And I wonder if they knew all along, because they would have seen her come in the pub and sit down. I mean, if you're that pregnant, surely you would have been to the loo a few times as well, I would have thought.
I don't know. Yeah. I wonder if they knew or not, because they laugh in a very knowing kind of way.
They do. Yeah. It's almost like, haha, got ya, that kind of laugh as Rodney's leaving. And obviously Maureen gives him a little wave as they're leaving as well. So, I wonder if they did know all along. But what are your notes for that scene, dude?
So firstly, I have the description of Anna from the script. So it says, sitting alone at a table with a suitcase by her side is Anna. She is an attractive 19-year-old language student from Germany. She can speak English quite well, but has problems with Nag's Head English. She surveys the bar in an almost frightened manner. She is vulnerable and sad. Now, the first thing I wanted to say is 19 stands out in my head because I was just writing the script for dates, and Neris is supposed to be 19. Anna is 19. Debbie is 19. What is it about 19? Is it every woman who is like a love interest for Rodney has to be 19 because he's 24? Was that like some sort of acceptable age difference?
I was going to say, I wonder, because 18 sounds a bit like, they're a bit too young for him, but 19.
Yeah. What is it about 19 though? When I first read yesterday, when I was doing dates, that Neris is supposed to be 19, I was like, Neris is only 19.
Yeah, I thought Neris was in her early 20s. I always thought she was like supposed to be like 21
it's hard for
or
me to
22.
get my head around this because, like we've discussed this before, women, it's hard to place age on women in the 80s because the hair and the fashion. But even when I was a little kid, I never thought of Neris as 19. I always thought of her the same age as Rodney. So, but I guess John Sullivan just had it in his head that any woman that's meant for Rodney is 19 because he always puts that in the script.
I never noticed that until you pointed it out that everyone's 19.
And 19 is a
when they
weird
do Rodney.
age.
Oh, except for Irene, of course, who is
40. Yeah, but 19 is just a weird age. Why not 20?
Because 20 would be too normal. 19 sounds edgy, but then if you do it too many times, it becomes common.
Is 20 knocking on a bit? I don't know. Maybe it's too old for Rodney. Okay, and then secondly, Anna was played by Erica Hoffman. So she was also in John Sullivan's other show, Just Good Friends, but just for one episode. But she had a fairly big role in an 80s TV show called Brushstrokes, amongst other credits. She says the weirdest part of shooting this episode was going to the hospital to choose the baby, which totally makes sense. I wanted to highlight a couple of my favourite lines in the scene. Obviously, we've already said, what is your name? So we've done that one. But another really great line is...
What a turn up, eh? He thought he was going to pull a Swede and she gets lumbered with a cabbage.
And then, so the final part here where Del leaves and he says...
Come on, Albert, let's take a Toby home.
There are so many mixed opinions on the meaning of this phrase. I'm sure some people in the comments will want to add their opinions to this, but so a lot of people think that it means take a train home because Toby Ale means rail in Cockney rhyming slang. But I don't think that makes sense because Albert and Del would not take a train home from the Nag's Head. We've already heard many times that that they can walk to the Nag's Head or back if they want. So they're leaving the van with Rodney. They're not going to take a train home. I think it means they're going to walk, right?
Yeah, that makes... I mean, they would just walk usually.
Yeah.
But the only thing I can think of Toby is like Toby Jug. But I can't think of any Cockney rhyming slang that would go with that.
No, so I think the most accurate answer I found on Reddit, somebody wrote, in the old English days of highway robbers, they taxed people on the road to proceed. This was called a tobler tax or a tobler tax. Tobler or tobler comes from old Irish travellers. this in turn was turned into Toby as an English alternative. So that makes the most sense. So you're walking down the road to go home. You take a Toby home.
Right.
It means to walk on the road to pay Toby tax. That makes the most sense because we know that they're probably going to walk. Somebody actually suggested, they were like, oh, I think it means a Toby carvery. It's like, why would he, like, does he mean they're going to go to the Toby carvery and take it home? That doesn't make any sense. And also they won't open that late because this is chucking out time. So this is what, like after 11 p.m.?
Yeah.
So yeah, that doesn't make sense. So I think that it means take a walk home, and it's like a shortening of the Tobler tax, meaning Toby means to walk on the road. But please add your interpretations in the comments below. And that's all I had for that scene.
We cut to Nelson Mandela, and we're back at the flat, and we start the scene, as we start many scenes, with Del on the phone trying to make a deal.
Yeah.
And he is trying to sell the phone that he is using.
Of course they're not faulty. Huh? I say, of course they're not faulty.
I know there's another scene when I think it's series 6 when he's on the phone and he's trying to sell and it starts breaking up again. Again, a common theme. All of the things that you get from Del have something missing, which we find out in this episode.
Yeah.
So Rodney comes home and tells Del that Anna will be staying with them for the night, which already upsets Del. He reacts badly to it, and then he sees that Anna is pregnant.
I've got to go. I'll hang up because something big has just turned up.
Sensitive as a sledgehammer. Albert follows it up with,
Hello, dear. Nice to meet you all.
Del takes Rodney into the kitchen, leaving Albert with Anna. And before they go in, Del gets a little dig in.
Albert, please try to entertain our guests.
So Del is worried about Anna giving birth while she is staying with them. I mean, I don't really understand what the problem is here, because even if she did go into labour, surely they just call an ambulance and then she'd be taken away. Like, what's the actual problem? Are they worried that she's going to actually have the babies in the flats? Because surely the moment that she had the first contraction, they'd have been on the phone to the ambulance, like they were, they are later in the episode.
Yeah,
I don't really understand Del's objections here, is what I'm trying to say.
I've never understood it either. If he was gonna let her stay, right? When he turns around, he's like, "Yeah, hello, darling." Like he seems okay with it. I don't understand why it matters that she's pregnant.
But anyway, Albert comes in and says,
Unless I'm very much mistaken, that young girl out there's up the duff.
so this actually gets a huge laugh. So I wonder if it wasn't a very common saying at the time. I actually Googled this, and Google seems to think that it originated in Australia in the 1940s and refers to a pregnant belly looking like a duff cake, which was usually a round shape.
Right.
I actually don't know how true that is. But yeah, this line gets such a great laugh. And like, up the duff is a very common saying. You know, I've heard it many times, not just in Only Fools and Horses. So I just wonder if this wasn't that common at the time because it gets such a huge laugh. Or is it just Buster Merrifield's delivery?
I think it's mostly delivery. I mean, I always knew as a kid what up the duff meant.
Yeah.
I think even if you don't know, you can tell from just the context. But I think it's the delivery. Yeah. That's interesting because I didn't actually look up the origin of up the duff.
So we get a great line here where Del mentions taking in the waifs and strays of Europe.
Because we're in a European community now, we've got to stick together.
Pity her knees didn't.
And the delivery of that line, I always feel like David Jason almost flubbed it a little bit.
He did a little.
There's like a bit of hesitation after knees, which again I think is very natural. You know, you don't always speak perfectly. So I just, the delivery of that line is spot on. It's very funny. And Albert points out that Anna may have multiple babies in her belly, and Del agrees.
She could be sitting out there with a belly full of people.
But again, I ask, why would that be a problem?
Yeah, I don't know. I never understood why that matters.
The only reason I can think for making it a problem is to have this great scene and all this great dialogue between the three of them. But yeah, it doesn't really make
Maybe
any
they
sense.
were just more strict about people in those days in the flats, but I don't think so. I mean, there was a lot of people living at Nelson Mandela in Rock and Chips. They had Reg and Joe, and they had Del, then they had baby Rodney, they had Grandad, they even had Violet staying for a while. There was a lot of people at Nelson Mandela. So I don't understand why it would matter if a baby was there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like if it was a household of women, they might be more. But then saying that, I'd freak out about someone giving birth in my flat. But I think that maybe it's like they're trying to stereotype men being freaked out by pregnant women. Maybe a little bit. I'm not sure. And like you said, maybe in these times it was more common for men to be a bit like, ugh. Especially like if they're not the father, which all three of them are not in this situation. But anyway, Rodney gets upset. and says Del will have to be the one to tell her if he wants her to leave. So Rodney has a little Rodney tantrum, typical of Rodney, but well-meaning in this situation. So here we get a great exchange with the joke that I mentioned earlier, the please joke, where every time Del tries to say something to Anna, she says please to Rodney. And I love Del's attempts to use simple English.
We are a bit knackered for space.
I mean, you couldn't say that any more complex way to someone that English is not their first language. I find this is really interesting because, again, I use my own experiences in Hong Kong. Sometimes when I teach classes that have very weak English, I find myself using like words that I can't simplify any further. And I'm still struggling to find a more simple word. But then sometimes I find myself overusing complicated words and I can't stop myself. It's really weird what happens in your brain when you have to like completely alter the type of language that you usually use.
Yeah, and there's no way that Del could do it. Like, Del is also, like, he's never been one for speaking proper English, has he? He's always spoken in this Cockney slang, and that's why a lot of people from other countries don't understand the show. And it's amazing how many fans there are all over Europe.
Yeah, true.
A lot of the things that Del says wouldn't actually be, like, none of it could be picked up by somebody who doesn't speak English as their first language. And that was the whole reason that Anna was sitting there stumped in the pub thinking that no one spoke English. So here Del's trying, like you say, to simplify it, but he's continuing to use his usual...
The old dog's naked.
Yeah. What? I mean, yeah, I'm the same as you. I mean, in America, it's hard sometimes. Like when I first moved here, a couple of the things I had to stop saying were kitchen roll is one of them. Americans thought kitchen roll was food. Because I worked in a pharmacy, so I had to stop using vitamins. I had to say vitamins for them. I'll tell you that one of the main things that Americans don't understand that English people say is when you greet them with, all right, because they think that you're asking them if they're okay, like something's wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, even for us, we're, Brits, and we have to look up some of the stuff that Del says. We don't understand it as well. So, it must be very difficult for someone who wasn't born in England to understand some of this stuff.
Yeah. And a lot of English people infer, like, they just understand from general context. And John Sullivan was obviously born and raised, same as Ray Butt, like they were, like, working class Londoners. So they spoke like this. This was how they spoke.
Yeah.
And they didn't even think, like, we don't need to worry about amending this so people can understand it because we understand it. And this is genuinely the way that we speak. So yeah, they weren't concerned about that. And here they're playing off of it. They're like, oh, yeah, like she's foreign. She doesn't understand it. So I think it's really great dialogue exchange and it makes for some very funny lines.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll carry on because I just obviously coming to the end of that joke because that joke continues all the way through this. Actually, even Rodney's line,
we say there is no room at the inn,
is not exactly direct like English either. Like that's kind of taking a fable from the Bible. So
she wouldn't understand
it's
that,
quite
right?
Yeah, but she does seem to. Like every time Rodney says something, she seems to understand it. But anyway, Albert asks who the father is, and Anna explains that she slept with her boss's son. Or more, that he took advantage of her while she was spinning.
Aww.
And the family chucked her out when she told them that she was pregnant with his baby.
My disruptive influence on Spencer makes it inexpedient for me to remain.
Please. You say on your bike.
I absolutely love the way that they wrap that joke up with Del not understanding.
Yeah.
That is so funny. And it works so well for Rodney, the comeback at the end of the sentence as well. It's brilliant. Brilliant writing. One of my favourite lines. So she explains that she's waiting for the baby to be born so she can put the baby up for adoption. And this story convinces Del to allow Anna to stay for the night. He feels sorry for her, you can tell. And you can tell that Del and Rodney understand Anna's situation probably even a little bit better than she does because they can see how cruelly she's been treated. Like the way that she tells the story is very matter of fact.
Yes.
Like I was spinning and then this happened and it's like she doesn't really fully seem to understand, or at least in her tone of voice, she doesn't seem to fully understand just like how badly she was taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Here. And
it's really bad.
I mean, yeah, it's really horrible. And then obviously the family chucking her out when their son got her pregnant, that's terrible, like really terrible. And again, Rodney and Del, they do seem to fully sort of understand that, which is why I think they let her stay. And they still have some batteries in the corridor, I said, as Rodney asks Anna to mind the batteries. And I wonder if they're the same ones from Strange Relations. So Del and Albert are left alone to discuss things when Rodney takes Anna into the bedroom, and Del brings up Boycie and Marlene not being able to have children.
I mean, they're stinking rich, and yet with all that money, they cannot buy the one thing they would most dearly love. Little baby.
Del's face turns full-on evil genius here, I said, as he says,
Just worked out that everything could work out very, very Cushty.
is this the first time we've heard Cushty?
Yes. I think I'm getting confused because I've written so many episodes ahead. Because Royal Flush, Rodney explains the meaning of Cushty to Vicky, remember?
Yes, to
Vicky. And I thought that was the
yes.
first time it was in the show, but this, I believe, is the first time that Del says Cushty. If anyone can remember a time before, yeah.
I feel like we would have pointed it out, but maybe we did, because I don't remember. Yeah, I feel like this is the first time. It's certainly the first time we hear it more than once in one episode, I think, because Anna says it later. So that's all I have for that scene. Any notes on that, dude?
Yeah, just a couple of things. So at the very beginning of the scene, when Del and Rodney go into the boardroom to discuss, it's hard to notice it, but it's really funny. Albert is handing a lone chip to Anna, like she's a dog or something. You just see it, like he's like
I never noticed
he's
that.
like pushing a chip towards her mouth. Which is really funny.
I'm going to go back and look at that. I did not notice that
I
at
put
all.
like she's a pet in my notes. And then when they go in the kitchen, there is loads of boxes of those phones everywhere. And I also noticed that there is a Flymo lawnmower in the kitchen, which is quite funny.
I love it.
So Del says one line here where he says,
I just do not know what's happening to me lately. I just do not know what's happening. I've got more relatives crawling out of woodwork than Blake Carrington.
So just for reference, Blake Carrington was a fictional character from the American soap opera Dynasty, which is funny because in the next episode, Rodney mentions Crystal Carrington, also from Dynasty. So
Dynasty.
Was it Dynasty really popular or something in 1986? I don't know, but
Maybe.
either way,
yeah.
so many Dynasty references.
So we cut to Boycie's house. So Duke is as tall as Rodney, standing up. So that is a really big dog.
He's a Great Dane.
And he's a Great Dane, and he's play fighting with Rodney. And maybe this was actually the scene that was cut or mentioned from Sleeping Dogs Live, because she said there was a scene in the back garden.
Well,
right.
I don't think.
So this is what should have been in Sleeping Dogs Live.
Yeah, I don't think it was cut. It's just that they refer to it in the notes in Lovely Jubbly for Sleeping Dogs Lie.
I mean, you did say that this was originally intended for Series 4, so maybe there was a bit of an overlap with those episodes.
I don't, because they weren't filmed at the same time. So I just think that the people who wrote Lovely Jubbly got mixed up. Honestly, I'm not judging or anything. It's easy to do, but when they say that Nick Lyndhurst had an incident with the dog where he almost got trampled, it's more likely that happened here than in Sleeping Dogs Lie.
Yes.
Because they talk about Rodney carrying Duke in Sleeping Dogs Lie, but he doesn't carry Duke. So yeah, I don't know.
No.
Maybe there's a whole load of dog scenes cut because filming with a dog has got to be hard.
I mean, to be fair to Nick Lyndhurst, I'd be quite intimidated doing this
Me
scene
too.
with a Great Dane, because I mean, the Great Dane standing on him, it must really hurt when Duke stands. I mean, he's lovely, obviously, in the scene, but I'm assuming the dog trainer was literally just out of shot. But even so, that is quite an intimidating scene to have to film and to sort of make it look real as well. So you've got to put the emotion in. That might freak the dog out as well. So yeah, really, really well done by Nick Lyndhurst there. So we cut to Boycie and Marlene's living room, and we find out that Del is trying to do a deal.
I said I could help you have a baby.
What do you mean? You're willing to be one of them suffragette fathers?
So I've got there Marlene doing a Delism.
Yeah, I love that line.
Yeah, I love her delivery of it as well. It's very funny. Now, obviously, I did not know what a suffragette was when I was a kid, but now I do. It's even funnier. I knew that she wasn't saying surrogate correctly, but even so, it's very funny. So Del continues.
No. What I mean is I know where there's a baby going.
What? Knocked off?
Again, brilliant lines in this scene. Del tells Boycie and Marlene about Anna's situation and offers for them to adopt her baby. I'm not sure what people think about this situation, really. As you mentioned, there are a lot of thoughts about how bad it is. But I guess the first thing that I would want to know is if Del has asked Anna at this point before he goes and mentions it to Boycie and Marlene, because we don't ever find out if that actually is the case.
No. I don't think he ever asked Anna.
I mean, presumably, he must have asked her when he brings them to the flat in the last scene. She must know that they're going to be there waiting. But even so, because Rodney doesn't know anything, I guess he hasn't asked Anna before he offers to give the baby to Boycie and Marlene. And I told you that but he takes her passport as well, which is... So Boycie seems to dismiss the idea almost immediately, but Marlene says...
Hang on a minute, boys. Let's not be hasty. I mean, you're the one who's always going on about having a son and heir.
So Del then lies and says that he knows it's a boy, which is so stupid. 50-50, I know, but come on.
Yeah.
I mean, that was clearly going to go badly, and it does when it's a girl. So he shows them Anna's picture from her passport, and I said, did he ask if he could take her passport? And think of it from Anna's point of view. She's staying in someone's flat that she doesn't know. She's heavily pregnant, and she goes to look for her passport, and it's gone.
Yeah.
You would freak out.
Right.
Like, come on. So I think that's, if I'm guessing, we'll assume he didn't ask Anna. So that's a really bad thing. That's probably one of the worst things that Del does in the whole thing, is if Anna did find out that her passport was gone, and the fact that he didn't ask Anna's permission to offer her
Unless
baby.
she knew all about it.
That's what I mean. But I don't know. I'm saying probably not, because Rodney doesn't know. And I think that Anna would have been there when Rodney would have been there when Del asked Anna, unless there was a way for them to be alone having this conversation in the flat without Rodney being there. I doubt it. So Boise starts to come around to the idea, and he and Marlene go to have a private chat, at which point Rodney runs in to get away from Duke. And I said, obviously you can tell that Duke isn't really out there with Rodney, because the dog would have followed.
Yeah, and most dogs would, or scratch at the door to come in.
Yeah. There's no way that Duke would have stayed on the lawn while Rodney was a moving target running for the door and carrying on playing. The dog would have followed, absolutely. So Del tries to distract Rodney, but after a couple of questions from Boise and Marlene from across the room, he figures out what Del is trying to do.
Yes.
So why would Del bring Rodney with him? This is something I don't understand. Why did he bring him to Boise and Marlene's? Why didn't he go on his own?
Yeah, this is exactly the same as the situation in Denzel's flat, isn't it? Where he's able to pull off the con while Rodney's not there. So they do this often. They have Rodney kind of half in the conversation, half out while Del's doing his scam, and then Rodney comes in and he's like, "What are you up to, Del?" Like, why does he bring him? I mean, maybe is it just because they're always together? I don't know. You would think he could have sent Rodney off down the market to sell some phones or something while he did this. Yeah.
Yeah, or he could have just gone off and been like, I'm going out on my own, as he does so often. I mean, there was no reason to bring Rodney, and obviously he knew Rodney would react this way, so it does seem a bit silly.
Every time Rodney is there, there's an argument. It's true. I mean, I know that's part of the script and the plot and everything.
Yeah, of course, that's why he brings Rodney, so the script can have the conflict, but even so. So we get a little bit more history here about Boise and Marlene's situation.
Yeah, well, if that's what they want, they go down to an adoption society.
No, we tried lots of times, Rodney. They always turn us down. It's because of his record.
So here we find out that Boise is actually more of a criminal than Del.
Yes, definitely he is. Or at least he's been more pulled up on it.
Perjury. Embezzlement. Conspiring to pervert the course of justice. Fraudulent conversion of travellers' cheques, and attempting to bribe the mayor of Lambeth.
So even Del and Rodney look shocked with Boise's list of
do.
criminal offences here. So I think Boise is definitely more of a criminal than Del in this situation. And of course, the diamond smuggling as well.
Right,
I mean,
which was
this
episode is directly after to Hullenberg. So,
yeah, directly after.
Yeah.
So yeah, Boise is a master criminal.
Yeah, and
Del's
actually,
just a fly pitcher and a bit of a dodgy salesman.
why is Del
really,
so surprised by Boise's history? You think he would have known?
Wouldn't Del? I put that. Yeah, I put that as my next one. Wouldn't Del know all of that already before Boise launched into the list? Del then launches into a speech saying all the things that he would know Rodney would want to hear about second chances and opportunities. Again, total emotional manipulation here on Rodney to get him to come around to agreeing with his idea. But again, it's very difficult to tell if Del actually believes what he's saying. Because as you said in the opening, people think that he did this purely for the money. If you take what Del says here at face value, it does sound like he's doing a good thing. It does all work on Rodney at first. And I've got to say, it would have worked on me too. The things that Del's saying and Boise and Marlene kind of chiming in as well. It sounds like a fair idea if Anna wants to put her baby up for adoption. But again, we don't know. We assume Anna has not greenlit this idea before they went and suggested it to Boise and Marlene. So that's really out of order. Especially the line,
But it's illegal.
What? Giving a little baby love and warmth and a chance in life is against the law.
how can you disagree with that? I mean, yes, Boise probably would be a bit of a dodgy dad, but you can't deny that Marlene would be a doting mother. You don't get more doting than that.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, that line that she says there, where giving the baby the love is against the law, it is against the law.
It is against the law, yeah. I know, isn't that
I mean,
crazy?
when she says that,
Yeah.
she's highlighting something that's obviously very wrong with the world, and that is that, yes, if you're there and you've got the perfect home, and there's millions of children out there that need the perfect home, it's illegal. Because, and the law exists to protect the parents and the babies, but the system is very broken, of course, because, like, I mean, I don't know how much it is in the UK, but it's insanely expensive to adopt a child here, as if people have got 40, 50 grand sitting around to adopt a child. They don't, but that's how much it costs, and that's just stupid legal stuff. Like, you can love a child, but you can't because you don't have enough money. Like, it's against the law. It's silly. But...
Yeah, it is. But you're right. I understand that you've got to have laws to protect the children, and you have to have like criminal background checks, and any criminal offense in your background is going to not just bar you from adopting children; it'll probably bar you from getting jobs and all sorts of things. But yeah, I can understand why it's there, but it is pretty crazy that they don't sort of consider Boise and Marlene a bit more, because they do have, they're rich. I mean, that would be a great foundation to start with. And then obviously Marlene doesn't have a criminal record. At least we can assume she doesn't. So she can't adopt because she's with Boise. I mean...
No, I think the criminal records thing is a very serious hurdle. And it goes to show, doesn't it, that they've got all the money in the world, like Del says, but they can't because law, like the law and the criminal record is enough to stop him being able to get it.
Yeah.
So money is not all powerful in this case.
Yeah, which is strange because it usually is.
Yeah.
The most important
You
thing.
have to feel bad for somebody who made mistakes in their younger years, although Boise is still a criminal as of the last episode, but he made some big mistakes that are actually on his criminal record, and it means his whole life he can't ever get a second chance and have children. Doesn't seem fair.
No, and that's exactly what Del says to Rodney, to convince Rodney that it's a good idea.
However, I know we'll talk about this in Video Nasty, they find out that Boise is the problem why they can't have children. She says they've had all the tests already by this point. They would already know that Boise was the problem. And I mean, I don't know how sophisticated the tests were in the 80s, but I still think they would have known. If it's something so simple that Boise is infertile, they would have already known that by now if they've had so many tests.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter. But this is a very sensitive topic, actually, and a very serious topic for lots of people. And maybe now's a good time to just put in my note about Sue Holderness saying that she said this was a very touching storyline. So her quote was, "It was very touching. It was as if everything Marlene had longed for in her life was going to come true, and it was going to be perfect, and it was very sad for her when it all went wrong. As an actress, it was very rewarding to work on this episode. Marlene went through a great deal of emotion because having a baby had been the overriding thing in her life since she was 16. Then she got a chance of having one, and it was taken away again. It was all beautifully written, as good as any Chekhov or Shakespeare play." She also said that she received a massive amount of letters from women facing infertility in real life, and they were sharing with her their own experiences. They were unaware that in real life, she was not suffering from infertility. She was in fact pregnant during the filming of Sleeping Dogs Lie, and by this point, she already had 2 kids. But I think they thought that she was actually infertile, or at least they related to her character and wanted to write to her.
Yeah.
So it was that serious and that important to people even back then that they felt so emotionally connected to this character storyline that they wrote to Sue Holderness.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, the next thing that I wrote was, I'm really sad for Marlene that it doesn't work out for her, because I agree. I think this is heartbreaking for her if you really think about it. So Boise and Marlene go to have one final private chat, and Rodney says,
"You're going to earn out of this, aren't you?"
Del acts all hurt, like we've seen before, when Rodney asks him a question like this and he doesn't know how to respond to it because Rodney's right. And then Boise asks,
"How much is this going to cost?"
And Del bullshits a little bit, ending with,
$3,000 should cover it, actually.
Again, I just wrote here, I think Del is trying to do a good thing, but I can't decide if the money is more important or helping Boise, Marlene and Anna is more important. What are your thoughts? That's what I wrote at the end of this scene.
Yeah, I wrote that in my notes as well. Do we think people would be less critical of Del in this situation if there were no money involved? If he had just come along and just said he's trying to facilitate an adoption because he knows Anna's in need and Boise and Marlene are in need, how would people feel?
I think I'd feel really good about Del if he tried to do that. Again, as long as he asked Anna. This is the thing that doesn't sit right with me, is that I don't think he asked Anna any of this before he suggested it, and he took her passport without asking. I think that's
maybe,
really bad.
But when she comes in at the end, she seems fully aware that the plan is that she's not going to keep the baby, because she says, "I think things aren't cushy. I'm now going to keep the baby." So she does know that she's supposed to not be keeping the baby. But yeah, we don't know how much she told her about any of it. And when she sees Boise and Marlene...
I just don't think you can offer someone's baby to someone without asking the mother.
No.
That's the thing that doesn't sit right with me here. But again, that's just assuming he didn't ask.
So take the money out of the equation. That's the only thing that's a consideration. Let's say Anna was fully happy with it and there's no money involved. What Dell's actually doing is really nice, I guess. But I mean, it's still against the law.
Yeah.
Like, you can't deny that.
It's against the law. Yeah. I mean, I don't know down the line, because obviously they discussed that a little bit in this scene about sort of...
I was thinking more of that gynecologist who examined you on Monday.
Obviously, it would be a bit out of the blue. And I'm not sure if that would raise eyebrows enough for people to maybe ask social services or whatever they're called, children's services, to look into the situation a little bit, that they've suddenly got a baby from somewhere. I think that would be something that maybe they could get in trouble for, or someone would report. So I don't know. It might not have gone as smoothly even if the baby had been able to be adopted by them. But
I think they just put that bit in just because they know that, like, realistically, people would be like, where's the baby come from?
Yeah. Exactly. You know,
and it's not like Boise and Marlene are like they're not low profile people. They know a lot of people.
No, they're not society. They're not hermits in society.
Yeah, so they only put that in, I think, because the audience might have questioned it, perhaps. Yeah. I just had a couple of other notes. They're not really related to the storyline, but yeah, I put, it's weird that Boise would let Dell walk around his living room using his hand as an ashtray. Surprising, because it's such a nice living room.
Yeah, it's true.
He notes Boris Becker's cousin. Boris Becker was a German tennis player. And then, finally, $3,000 is the equivalent of $9,000 now. So that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. But not to Boise and Marlene, probably.
No, it's a lot of money to Dell. I think if Boise had to go through the official adoption channel, like I said, I don't know for sure what it's like in the UK, but it's at least $40,000 in this country to start the adoption process.
So we go back to Nelson Mandela and we get Dell playing what I assume is Space Invaders on the computer to begin the scene.
Gotcha, you Martian git.
So I think it's interesting seeing Dell using a computer, because usually it's Rodney on the computer. So Rodney's still very upset with Dell.
You know perfectly well what's up with me. Selling a baby. God, it's like something out of Dickens times.
Rodney's not wrong if it was just selling a baby, as some people agree, some people disagree. That's what it is, but it's framed that way, definitely from Rodney's point of view. So Dell actually admits here that he is using this situation as a way to get money from Boise, to pay for all the times he feels that Boise has cheated him in the past. And again, very unhealthy friendship between them, I just say. But I actually wonder because I think, is he referring to a losing streak? But then Dell wrecked his Jag in Go West, Young Man. And if Slater hadn't taken the diamonds, Dell would have stolen 2 diamonds from Boise. So I wonder actually if it is Dell tucking up Boise more than Boise tucking up Dell in the long run.
Don't forget, at the end of To Hullenbach, Dell thought that Boise gave him counterfeit notes. So
yeah, but he hadn't. This is what I mean. So I
know, but Dell doesn't know that though.
in actual sort of situations that we've seen, the only time that Boise took Dell up is a losing streak, but Dell still got his own back on Boise by tucking him up back.
Yeah.
So actually Dell, by my count, is up 3 on Boise. But maybe there's more times.
I was going to say, I think it's inferred that there's so many other times that they haven't, but then Boise says into Hullenbach, just to go back, that he would never try to screw Dell over. Which is weird. Because
he's not into plastic surgery.
Yeah, that's an old, I guess maybe their friendship has evolved so much we don't really know. But yeah, it does sound like Dell's just referring to a lot of things that happen off screen, I guess.
Because the only other time I can think after this that's really clear is when Boise won't give him the money, but then Dell sold him dodgy video recorders that don't work on that don't work in England. So he doesn't have to pay him for them.
Well, doesn't he also steal Boise's Statellite dish, though?
Yeah.
So,
well, no, Bronco does, but he takes it off him.
He has
it.
Boise's, and he knows it's Boise's. Well, he thinks it is. Yeah. I don't think there's any moral considerations between these two. They're perfectly happy to stitch each other up without much guilt.
No, what I'm trying to think of is are there any other times that you can think of where Boise stitches up Dell?
No, not on screen.
And not the other way around. No. Yeah, this is what I mean. So I'm just I'm not sure. Maybe Dell doesn't deserve to have that money because that's just another example of Dell stitching up Boise, to be honest, to add to the pile. So Dell does say that he's going to give Anna a few hundred out of the money that he gets from Boise. We hear Anna groaning.
She's in pain.
How do you know you can't speak German?
It's interesting here because we see Rodney freak out and Albert not so much.
Yes.
about the baby coming, but flash forward to Raquel going
Yeah,
into labour,
I know.
and then we get Albert panicking. There's a baby on its way.
I made that note too. I was like, Albert's gotten much more nervous by the time Damien comes. Phone someone.
Yeah, totally. But then saying that, Rodney is very funny here, where he drinks the water that Del sends him out to get for Anna. There's a lovely touching moment at the end of this scene between Del and Anna.
But how are you getting on? It's all right, darling, all right.
Danke.
It's all right, it's all right. Vorsprung durch Technik.
Which I looked up. It means progress through technology, which was Audi's slogan from 1971.
Yeah, it still is the slogan. You see it? Yeah.
Is it still the slogan?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I don't really know much about car ads and stuff, but that was interesting.
It's
that,
a famous
he actually just
slogan. Yeah, that's why Del knows
right,
it.
that's why
yeah.
it's funny. Yeah. But I think that's quite touching.
It is really
between Anna
nice.
and Del there, even though it's funny, the way Del says it. I think it's interesting that she seems to thank Del more than Rodney, because Rodney was the one that sort of set all this in motion to bring her back. But again, maybe here she's thanking him that he's found someone to adopt her baby as well. I'm not sure, because we don't know how much she knows at this point.
Yeah, we don't know, but she's in labour, so...
Yeah. So that's all I had for that scene. Any notes?
Just a couple quick ones. So same computers that he's selling in The Frog's Legacy here. So he's already got them. They have these computers for a long time. And drachma was a former monetary unit of the Greece, not Germany, but it's very Del that he thinks drachma is German. It actually does sound German. I love the freeze that the three trotters do when she goes, ah, and they all in unison just go the freeze. It's really nice the way that they all club together, all rushing around trying to help Anna, even though she's not a relative or anything. It's just it's really nice.
Totally
very
agree.
caring, very, very trotters, very family oriented. Del screaming when Anna squeezes his hand is just like Raquel in the future. When Raquel gives birth. And the only other note I already said about Albert, so yeah.
So we go to the last scene of the episode now, and we begin the scene with Marlene pacing in the flat. She's obviously very nervous about meeting what she thinks is going to be her child soon. So Albert and Rodney went with Anna to the hospital, but not Del. I'm guessing Del didn't go because he had to wait for Boycie and Marlene to come.
So.
But honestly, Rodney or Albert... Weird that Albert went. That's a bit weird. Rodney going, I can understand, but Albert going to the hospital is a bit weird.
You ever heard of the uncle being at the birth before? Yeah, I don't know why he's there. Yeah.
Other than to have the reaction when he comes in and Albert knowing the situation, that's the only reason really. But from again logical point of view, it doesn't make sense that Albert went to the hospital. So I'm surprised that Marlene wouldn't have wanted to go there and be there for the birth, actually.
Well...
Boycie I can understand, because Boycie sees this as more of a business transaction. Even having a kid, he sees it as a business transaction.
Yes.
But for Marlene, I'd have thought... Because I'm just thinking about Friends, when Erica has Chandler and Monica's
surrogacy,
babies, that they're in the room.
I think...
But even so, I think in this situation, it could have been arranged, because Del and Rodney know Anna.
Maybe, but I think... Maybe because she went into labour unexpectedly, like it didn't seem like they were prepared. But yeah, also they're not. There's a lot of surrogacies where, surrogacy is different to adoption. In a lot of cases, adoption they don't necessarily meet the parent. It'll depend, but I'm guessing in the 80s it was different. It's pretty common now for like an adoptive mom of a surrogate child to be there. So I don't know.
Oh no, it's not surrogacy in Friends. It's an adoption.
Yeah, exactly. It's not surrogacy, not in Friends, but
so it's the same.
In many cases,
so
surrogacy. Because in this case, it's an adoption as well. It's not surrogacy, but I think in cases of surrogacy, it's more common for the not adoptive mom, but for the mom to be there.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting, because I thought Marlene was the type of person that would have wanted to be there for the birth of what she thought was going to be her child. So yeah, I don't know. But anyway, Del tries to make some jokes, but Boycie and Marlene are clearly not having it. They're in a serious mood, so we get that sort of awkward exchange. And we get a funny line here where Marlene says,
"We've decided to call him Mark."
Oh, that's handy, because his father's name was Spencer.
And I'm sure those names were only chosen by John Sullivan purely for this joke.
Quite possibly, yeah.
The dad was called Spencer and they're going to call him Mark. That was obviously written that way. So Rodney comes home, and here we get the first revelation that Anna has had a girl and not a boy. Del actually blames Anna here, which is totally out of order. Yeah. How could she do that to me? Like, that's really bad. And secondly, we find out...
Oh, well, for one, Anna has fallen in love with her baby.
And for the life of me, I can't understand why they didn't see this as a potential problem that could happen.
There are men.
Anna's a young girl. I know, but Anna's a young girl having a baby. I mean, a natural bond, it's hormones, biology, like it's a natural thing that she would have fell in love with a baby the moment she saw it. So yeah, that seems a bit... Yeah. And Del is furious. He's so furious that Anna's fallen in love with her baby that he cuts off Rodney before he's able to tell him what the final and biggest problem is out of everything. And Anna comes in with her baby.
I think maybe things are not Cushty. I think maybe now I keep baby.
So Anna comes into the flat, and as soon as she's introduced to Boycie and Marlene, she runs off crying, and you do feel really sorry for her here. But again, a bit strange. I mean, she's just left the room and left a baby on the table. Then they could easily have just taken the baby and gone. I mean, you'd think that she'd have stayed to see this through. But I guess it would have been very distracting to have her there during this exchange. So Del begins with telling them about the sex of the baby.
He ain't a little baby boy.
What is it then?
So Boycie is angry, and Del tries to use this as a reason to call off the deal. But Marlene says,
Well, it's a boy, a girl, twins, it's a baby.
What? All right, Marlene, we'll take it. It's amazing, isn't it? Everything you buy off him's got something missing.
And I just think that line is fantastic from Boycie, because that is so true. Everything that Del sells has got a problem. And Albert and Rodney are judging Del hard here. And even Albert accuses him of flogging the baby here. So Albert is agreeing with Rodney that this is just Del selling the baby, that he doesn't care about anyone else. And in this situation, I can understand that, because Del's seen how upset Anna is, and Anna's even kind of said, I want to keep my baby now, and he's still saying, no, we've got to give it away, and I'm going to take the money. So I can see why they kind of turn on Del here. So Boycie has the money in his hand, and he goes over to the baby. So it really does feel like he's selling the baby with that situation. So Del steps in, though, finally redeeming himself a little bit. Del steps in and says the deal is off. And then Boycie furiously agrees. And that's when we find out.
Leave off, Marlene. The baby's brown.
And this reveal reminded me a little bit of Grandad's story about Maisie Turner in Thicker Than Water. So, because it's got the similar kind of outcome, really. So then we get this fantastic line, and I think this is probably one of Boycie's best lines in Only Fools and Horses, actually.
We could say it's a throwback.
For God's sake, Marlene! I might be able to con people into buying my cars. I might be able to convince them that you conceived and gave birth in 7 days flat, but how the hell am I going to persuade them my granddad was Louis Armstrong?
Even the breathing, like if you try and imitate that line, you can't catch your breath at the right times, and he just delivered it flawlessly. So Boycie storms out angrily, and again I ask, how did Boycie and Del's friendship survive this? Because he didn't just crush Boycie here, he crushed his wife. And that's usually something that would... Like, Del literally ruined her life in this moment, I think. Even Sue Holden said it, right? About Marlene's, like, grief when she felt like she lost a baby. And Del did that to her. In Boycie's eyes, that's what it would be. So I have no idea how their friendship would have recovered after this.
Well, yes. I mean, we can say that about so many of the Boycie-Del storylines, and it always does. So I think it's just to be assumed.
No, but this has got to be the worst. Because, again, it's not about him. It's not about money, like fiddling. It's about... He crushed his wife. That is usually something.
But Marlene doesn't seem to blame Del, though, at all here. She's still nice to him at the end of the scene.
She is, but Boycie, surely Marlene would have been distraught for months after this happened. I mean, I just don't believe that their friendship would have survived.
I kind of feel like
Boycie
really doesn't care that much about Marlene's emotions, though, or at least he kind of sidelines them. Or Marlene's upset, who cares? I know he cares about Marlene, but he also thinks that she's irrational and emotional, over the top.
He does. He does. But the one bit of this episode that makes me think that when Marlene really gets upset, he does care, is when she says that line we mentioned earlier. Giving a baby, a home is against the law, because he goes near her and he puts his arm around her to comfort her after she says that. And she's not even that upset when she says that line. So, I mean, you can only imagine sort of what the conversation was like when Boycie and Marlene got home after all this. But that must have been something that would have really upset Marlene for months. She probably would have been talking about it all the time. Yeah. Oh, the baby would have been this old now. The baby could have been sitting at the table with us. But it would have come up daily, I'd imagine. And Boycie would have been living with Marlene, that distraught. I don't think that a friendship would have survived that, especially one that's kind of rocky to begin with. I mean, it's not like they're best buddies in the world and they love each other. It wouldn't have been too much of a stretch for Boycie to be never again am I dealing with Del. But obviously we're glad that he did, because we still get the character of Boycie that we love.
Yeah. So
I just said I feel so sorry for Marlene here. Mm-hmm. She's just absolutely distraught. And as you said, she doesn't even get angry with Del here. She leaves in tears. And then we hear Anna crying again from the other room, right on cue. That's lucky, isn't it? And at which point we have Anna's daughter begins to cry. So again, that's just a joke about women crying that we get there. So Del and Rodney coo over the baby, which is actually quite a nice moment. They sort of stand over the baby saying how lovely the baby looks. And I assume the joke at the end is the baby throws up.
I think so, yeah, the baby throws up.
So
yeah.
I wasn't sure because you don't see it. I'm not sure about the ending of this episode. I feel like they did have to have Boycie and Marlene storm out and get upset, but I think ending the episode on the Louis Armstrong line would have been very strong.
Yeah, maybe, but then we wouldn't have seen Marlene leave. We needed to see that they left their dream behind.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I understand why they did it, but I just feel like, the ending of this episode kind of like, again, kind of floats off. It doesn't really have like a solid, like, oh, that's the end, like a strong, again, the endings, we always talk about the endings being a problem, but yeah, I feel like there was another way they could have ended this episode. Maybe not on the Louis Armstrong line, because they had to show Boycie and Marlene's reaction to this situation, especially Marlene's, but I mean, did we need to see Anna's reaction? Maybe, because she's just in the room, she doesn't come back out.
I almost feel like if Anna had come back out, it would have almost been a little bit insulting to Marlene's moment if Anna got held the baby again. I honestly think it's almost like it should have had a sad ending, which we haven't had a sad ending yet, right?
We
Not
haven't.
really.
No.
We've only had upbeat endings or joke endings or whatever. Yeah, right?
The first sad ending we get is probably Rodney come home.
No. No.
No.
I mean, a royal flush certainly doesn't have a happy ending, but
well, they try. I mean, that's very distracting, but the last line is meant as a joke in a royal flush.
Don't you think that the Frog's Legacy is kind of a sad ending? It's not a joke.
It's poignant.
Yeah.
It's poignant, the Frog's
It's emotional,
Legacy
but
ending.
it's not
I mean,
happy.
actual sad music playing over the credits. Rodney come home, I think, is the first one we get.
Yeah, I think
they do lean into the emotion and the drama a lot more in the later series of Only Fools and Horses.
which was a deliberate choice. Yeah. What about Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? We're forgetting that's a sad ending.
Oh God, yeah, that's true. That is quite more poignant than sad, but yes, I know what you mean. So, do you have any other notes for that scene?
A few quick ones. That weird front door I wrote. Never seen the glass front like that. Right? Is it always like that?
There's definitely more episodes that have the glass front, but the one where the chain is on has got the glass front.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think they changed the door a lot, but the hallway in this one looks really clean. I wrote that because normally the hallway looks rough. So I put this is probably the scene where things don't look so good for Del. Obviously, we can see he feels bad when he says the deal is off, but Anna looks so upset when she's told that Boycie and Marlene are going to take the baby. This is where you really feel kind of mad that Del facilitated this whole thing. And I wrote the same as what you said, but I don't think she would have run out the room and left the baby in the care of people that she doesn't necessarily know or trust. But like you said, that she can't be in the room in the scene. It just wouldn't have worked.
It wouldn't have been. None of the jokes would have landed because if Anna had been there upset, it's pretty spectacular that they were able to make the jokes land with Marlene being so upset in the scene. But they work again because John Challis is just fantastic. His delivery, I think that's what saved it.
That's the thing because it's such an up and down scene. So I also wrote that Rodney's face is really funny. That smile that he does behind Del when Del looks at the baby.
Yes.
I put it's so funny to have these moments of hilarity and then it just goes back and forth because Rodney looks really upset and uncomfortable when Marlene is leaving, trying to accept that her dream is over. He looks very upset. 2 seconds later, he's laughing about the fact that they're from the West Indies. It goes very up and down, and I think it's actually really well done. I mean, we didn't really say this earlier when we said why our rankings are in the 30s. Because same as IMDb, a lot of people insult this episode, but it's halfway, so it's pretty popular with people. And I think it's because it is memorable. It's got lots of good lines. It's actually funny and it's well written. The subject matter is questionable, obviously, but again, it was the 80s. Things were different.
Well, also, it was a really nice. I think this is the first episode where I really feel like we get to know Boycie and Marlene properly as a couple because we get to know Boycie obviously a little bit separately, particularly in To Hull and Back. We get a lot of Boycie character development in that, but to see how they work as a couple, we really see in this episode sort of the dynamic between them, and I think that it's really great to help their characters sort of become a powerhouse in Only Fools and Horses this episode.
And of course Marlene, by the time we get to her next appearance, which is Video Nasty, she's a lot more snippy at Boise and more of the controlling wife, whereas in these first two appearances, she's very like, oh yeah, Boise, what do you need? Like, she gets a lot stronger.
And after this incident, maybe she got more snappy with Boise, which would make sense, that their relationship would have suffered after this. That totally makes sense.
Definitely.
Yeah. So if that's everything, let's move on to our awards segment.
What are you on about? I won!
Okay, so as always, we have 3 awards to announce this week, and we will start with Plonker of the Week.
Und Plonker, yeah?
So for Plonker of the Week, we will each nominate a Plonker, and we will discuss and decide who wins. So, dude, who is your nomination for Plonker of the Week?
Yeah, so my Plonker of the Week is Del. For obvious reasons. He manipulated everything, and even if his intentions are good, what he did was bad.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't think you can look at it any other way.
I think this is a pretty obvious one, because nobody else in this episode is really guilty of anything bad or silly.
No.
Everything overall was done with the best of intentions. Like we say, we're not saying this is bad Del or anything. But yeah, in this case, maybe poor judgment here. And if he hadn't included the money, maybe things would have been different. But yeah, I wrote Del as well, so it's indisputable. Del is Plonker of the Week.
He ain't.
This week, Heather will award Best Line of the episode, and I'll be awarding Best Moment. So, dude, what have you chosen for your Best Line of the episode?
Okay, it's between 2. Okay. So the first one is I might be able to convince people to buy my cars. I might be able to convince people that you conceived and gave birth in 7 days flat. But how the hell am I going to convince everyone my grandfather was Louis Armstrong? So that's one of my favourite lines in all of Only Fools and Horses. And the other one I nominated, because again, it's such a fantastic, famous line, is, what is your name?
I knew you were going to say that, yeah. Yeah, you're going to have to pick, dude, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to give it to John Challis because we haven't given him a best line yet, and his, and I'm sure we'll give Albert lots of them later on. So I think that is one of Boise's strongest and most memorable lines in all of Only Fools and Horses. Yeah. So I'm going to give it to that line.
This episode has got a lot of good line contenders. Yeah,
it does. What were your honorable mentions for that?
I think I said most of my favorite lines throughout the episode. So yeah, I really like the cabbage one, and then all the exchange, like you said, with the language misunderstandings with Anna. Are really good, well written, but it's hard to say one specific line out of that exchange. It's just a nice exchange of lines.
Okay, so you've chosen the best moment, right? So what did you choose?
I think honestly, like if you watch the episode, the moment that gets the most laughs and interactions from the audience is when Anna stands up in the pub, because that laugh is very prolonged for like her entire exit. And it's all the reactions of everyone around, like Mike and Maureen and everyone. I think that is probably the best moment, but in my opinion. But I also think her going into labor is really good. And obviously the moment where they look at the baby at the end is very good because of Rodney's face. But if we're going to choose a joyful moment, I'm going to go with the pub scene.
Yes, that Anna's pregnant. Yeah, I wrote the same ones that you wrote as honorable mentions. And I also put like Duke and Rodney playing is a great moment, quite memorable. And I also put the whole exchange of the please in the flat between them is a moment that's very good as well. So, but yes, I think you're right. The baby being, obviously it loses its shock value after you've seen the episode and you know what's coming. But yes, you're right. The laugh is prolonged and they walk across the pub and then Rodney has this funny reaction where he kind of says some kind of swears under his breath, which he does a few times as well in other situations. So yeah, that whole moment is great.
Okay, so if there's nothing else, then drink up, we're leaving.
So that about wraps it up for this week. If you love Christmas, you'll likely be buzzing this week and maybe even putting up your Christmas decorations this weekend. So have fun if you are. And join us next week when we'll be discussing Series 5, Episode 2, The Miracle of Peckham. Until then...
Sunrise, come every morning.
Lighting up the ground all around.
Au revoir, listeners. If you like what you hear and want to contact us, you can email us at longlivehooky street podcast@gmail.com. All one word, no spaces. Bonjour.